Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the natal chart of Payton Gendron. Some of you may have heard this was the person that was apprehended recently in a Buffalo shooting. I believe at least 10 people were killed. And first thing I want to do is I want to give my prayers and condolences to the family members and friends of the victims, and it's terrible that we had another heinous crime take place, another shooting spree, and I hope this isn't becoming the norm for America. Again, we have so much negativity going on, and this is just basically adding insult to abject misery. But I want to talk about some natal placements he has and some transits that were going on at the time this killing, and see how they might have correlated with that, and how the natal placements and transits may have sadly have resonated with this. Now, first off, I got his birthday. It was a website called tvguidetime.com, and it's just one source, and I know it's not. This is somewhat speculative, but it gave the date as June 20th, 2003. He's 18 years old now, be 19 on June 20th, this year, based on the birthday on that website. Now, it puts his sun in Mercurial vacillating Gemini. He has his moon in super sensitive Pisces, and even though based on, I had to improvise, of course, and do a solar/sunrise time because, of course, the birth time is not available. But the signs, even though by aspect based on the sunrise time, it's still, the sun and moon are square by sign, not by the aspect. The sunrise time put the sun at 28 degrees Gemini, moon at 14 degrees Pisces. But the thing is, the energy is so, very, of course, such a contrast to one other. You have the sun in Gemini, which of course is focused on a lot of intellectual pursuits and communication, and you have things with dexterity and mobility, and the basic character can be restless. But then you have the moon in Pisces, which has the emotional need for wanting isolation, solitude, seclusion, withdrawing from the real world. It's much more introverted, of course, than Gemini, because Pisces is about isolation, and it's more into relaxation, meditation, sleeping, while the sun in Gemini is restless. But the thing about this is, too, sun in Gemini, of course, could also have an identity crisis. Sun is about the identity, and Gemini, of course, is very vacillating and mercurial, and that would probably be a vast understatement. Now, he also has Saturn. Interestingly enough, Saturn is conjunct his Sun in his chart, and this could, in some cases, this might limit the Sun and Gemini energy to some degree, but it could also give, on a positive note, may have given him certain maturity, responsibility. Maybe he had more responsibilities to his home and family, more so at an earlier age, more so than the average person. Saturn is in the zodiac sign Cancer. Now, the thing about and he might have had, maybe a person that actually had more of an ability to concentrate and focus more so than the typical Gemini Sun. Now, another thing I wanted to point out when I look at his chart, okay, he has Mars in Pisces, and based on the solar sunrise time, it conjuncts his midheaven, and this is something where that's an indicator of getting notoriety, sadly, for something of a volatile nature. This is Mars is also connected with gunfire. It's volatile energy. It's associated with violence and assault. And the thing about this is, being in Pisces, that could indicate anger that is very confounding, confusing, and perplexing. And it it might be where in his mind maybe he thought, he was like this, victim, or I mean, this is something too. I read online. You may want to confer this on the internet. There was something about him being connected with some supremacist group. He has in his chart as well, Uranus conjuncts his Mars, so that's an aspect of very unpredictable, spontaneous actions. And again, the fact that Mars in Pisces ones, that can be very confounding and confusing. Uranus is also conjunct the midheaven in the solar/sunrise chart. So I mean, Uranus is very unusual energy. It's really Uranus in Pisces, even though it's generational by itself, could indicate very unusual or bizarre, fantasies or dreams. And this is brought out, where he basically sadly got notoriety and recognition for it being conjunct with the midheaven. But it's also associated with, the 10th house can also reflect the side that is very difficult and hard to suppress. And that energy, is obviously very hard, for him to suppress and hold back. I would say, sad but true. And another thing about his, when I look at his chart, is that the having he has Mercury, being in Gemini. Obviously, it's in its dignity. On a positive side, can give very versatile mind, be able to understand virtually any subject. But it makes some bad adverse aspects. No shocker there, of course. I mean, it does make in opposition to his Pluto. The aspect by itself can give very obsessive, controlling thinking. And the fact about this is, my understanding is that this person had like 180-page, plot for this mass shooting, and that's another thing you may want to confer on the internet. But it tells me when you have Mercury, an adverse aspect to Pluto in your natal chart by itself, that could indicate, excessive, rewriting, editing, constant redoing, because you're expecting such infallibility with your work, and you figure Mercury in Gemini it could be very verbose and eloquent. He just probably, it wouldn't surprise me if he was writing this thing over and over again excessively. And Pluto is in Sagittarius. Now I understand this is generational, but you figure Sagittarius is connected with foreigners, people from a different, culture and creed, ethnicity, I would say as well. So this is where, maybe his mind is thinking was adversarial toward those people, and it's about getting that power Pluto over them, perhaps, as well as how this may have manifested with him. And the thing about this is as well, as far as his chart goes, and it's really, to me, when I looking at some other things in his chart as well, is that he does have, based on the solar sunrise time, he has Leo on the third house cusp. And by itself, this could give like maybe some superiority that he believes in his thinking. And Jupiter being in Leo in that third house may enlarge that. Remember, as I've spoken about in previous videos, Jupiter can be very paradoxical, could be very strongly benign and benevolent, but could also have the tendency to enlarge and expand. And it might have enlarged very arrogant thinking on his part, being that it's in that third house. Now, some other things too. He does have, Mercury at least in loose square aspect to his Uranus, which could indicate, some intermittent thinking and communications. He may not have had as many communications as the typical, Gemini Sun. The communications may have been very sporadic and erratic. Another thing too, with him, I notice, is that the Venus in Gemini is square his moon in Pisces. Now, this could indicate the lack of, it could be some nurturing, in his relationships. Maybe there was lack of love from a mother, at least he felt that. And the moon being in Pisces, that could, how he might have seen the mother, may have actually seen the mother as someone that was compassionate, altruistic, forgiving, but also maybe somewhat nebulous or confused, or maybe confounding, indecisive, ambivalent as well. But at the same time, there might have been something lacking with that, like I just described, the nurturing, or the love from the mother, because Venus is square his moon, at least based on the solar sunrise time. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, I'm also going to talk about right now some transits might have been tied in with this. He does have, at this time, transit Pluto was making an inconjunct aspect to his sun in Gemini. Now, inconjuncts in astrology can often be about adjustments. It could be about too much or too little of something. And having the Pluto in conjunct with the sun is about our focus and attention. Pluto is associated with death, murder, and obsession. And maybe this, for him, it may have manifested and been expressed. It was too much focus on that, on wanting to murder and kill. There shouldn't be any focus on that for anybody, but it shows to me that this could have been a very exorbitant amount on that. And the fact that Pluto is in Capricorn, though it's generational, it could be one that was very strongly plotted, premeditated, planned, and calculating. It was one which obviously showed a lot of coldness and callousness. And in the solar/sunrise chart, it does fall in the 8th house of obsession, of murder, and also vengeance. And maybe maybe in his mind, this was something associated with some kind of revenge. And this is something too. When I look at this, sadly, looking at some other transits he had at this time, transit Sun in Taurus, was in his 12th house of endings. At this time, the Sun is about life in astrology. That could signify that life, that one where maybe he actually had some peace and stability and calmness, and it being in Taurus is now, it reflects its going away. And the fact that transit Mercury, to me right now, it looks like it's, from what I'm seeing, is not far from his natal North Node. That's really moving away from your future. And North Node is at 29 degrees Taurus, and that's something where that's where that future, again, going back to Taurus being connected with peace, calmness, stability, composure, being able to have creature comforts, all those things. If he had them before, that's the signal that indicates that is those things are coming to an end based on what his mindset was at the time. The fact that Mercury is going to is approaching it, and will likely, it's make a separating conjunction before this transit is over. And the thing about this as well, what he has at this point in time. Another thing, of course, is interesting that this fell not far from the lunar eclipse in Scorpio that we're going to experience. And interestingly enough, that lunar eclipse in Scorpio is going to be very close to his south node in Scorpio. And that's something, when you have something hitting the south node in your chart, it could affect it more to its detriment. It could show what you're going away from. And the thing about this is, with him, with that moon being in transit, moon being in Scorpio, maybe there's a turbulent home life situation, that is, he might actually be going away from, or it could be, I mean, the moon by itself is about our emotional security and safety, and that, that's a sign, right there that is basically, leaving him, and it's also um, the fact that it's affecting when you have the transits hitting the south node in astrology. The south node again, I believe, can affect something strongly to its detriment, and that's something where you're talking about the moon in Scorpio, the feelings of vengeance, of power, and those things right there can bring out more of that negative energy with that when you're talking about convoluted emotions, those things hitting the south node, that's something where that energy really can come out in a very negative manner, to say the absolute least. And the thing about this is, I don't know, what really can be done at this point to do things to derail or at least contain these kind of situations. I mean, people talk about things all the time. Well, you could do this, you could do that, and here we are. We're still constantly hearing about these mass shootings. And where is America actually really going with this? I mean, I'm saying this rhetorically. What is actually going to become of us in the United States? And I want to say one other thing about that moon in Scorpio, the lunar eclipse being close to his natal south node in Scorpio. This is also, an indicator that, you talk about the full moon lunar eclipse as being about revelations and unveilings. Because maybe something comes out where there's a revelation of, psychological disorder, because Scorpio is connected with psychology. I think we already could see that there was one based on the crime he committed, but this is something where maybe that, that mental health, something with, on a psychological level, maybe is revealed about him around this time, on this day, when we have that lunar eclipse in Scorpio, which is going to be tomorrow. So really trying to see if there's anything else I wanted to add regarding his chart, or transits or natal placements or what have you. The only thing, again, when I'm looking at that south node in Scorpio based on the solar sunrise time, it is at 29 degrees. Scorpio, and 29 degrees is an anaretic degree in astrology. It's a degree where you're talking about too much or too little of something. And it's negative, being the fact that it's in this south node can have negative energy associated with it. It could be too much, or too much emphasis on power and control and vengeance, I would say, given that this is in Scorpio. And it's very and it's something that he needed to go away from. And sadly, the thing about it's about crisis as well, and support, shared resources. The thing with this is the fact that he was only 18 years old when this happened. The south node energy, north node, you generally don't emphasize or accentuate till around age 35 or so, the second half of life, generally speaking. But you're talking about the south node in Scorpio, that being at that 29 degrees, probably didn't help matters in this particular moment. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.